Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the Board of Directors meeting tonight. I would like to invite all of you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Thank you. Under the new guidelines from Governor Inslee's office in response to the COVID-19 outbreak, and the Open Public Meetings Act allows in-person meetings to occur but are limited to 25% capacity in the meeting room. Those who cannot attend in person this evening are joining us via Zoom webinar, and we welcome everyone. I'd like to call to order, or I have a tongue tied. Confirm our attendees tonight. Director Rob Perkins, Director Julie Bocanegra here, Director Rachel Rogers, and Superintendent Mike Merlino here, Administrative Assistant Lori Stroll, and Director Jenny Gronwell will be joining us later on. She's attending a function at her child's school. So forward. Next, we have our land acknowledgement. I'm going to ask Director Bocanegra to read that, please.
Land acknowledgement. Evergreen Public Schools resides on the traditional lands of the Chinookan peoples and the Cowlitz tribe. They have lived on and cared for this land and its waterways since time immemorial. We thank them for their stewardship and make this acknowledgement to open a space of recognition, inclusion, and respect for all Indigenous students, families, and staff in our community.
Next, I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the agenda is adopted. Next up, we have some special recognition tonight. The first being Pride Month, and I would like to call up Clarissa Hightower. She will read the Pride Month recognition.
There we go. Hi. Yeah. Okay. Evergreen Public Schools commits to creating a safe, caring, and mutually respectful environment for all students, family, and staff. June is nationally identified and celebrated as Pride Month to commemorate the Stonewall Uprising, recognize the positive global impact that our LGBTQIA+ community has had, and amplify the voices of our LGBTQA community. The uprising led to a greater awareness of the mistreatment of the LGBTQIA+ persons and marked the beginning of a movement to outlaw discriminatory treatments, laws, and practices against the LGBTQIA community. Pride Month celebrations around the world include parades, picnics, parties, workshops, and concerts that attract millions of allies and members alike. An estimated 5.6% of the United States population identify as LGBTQIA+. That's around 18 million people. These are our students, family members, friends, co-workers, and community members, and we are all connected. Our stories and experiences intertwine and intersect, making our community stronger and our hearts and minds more open to one another. At Evergreen Public Schools, we celebrate LGBTQIA Pride Month to honor and recognize our local community for their contributions and support. We stand with our LGBTQIA community in unity and with hope for a welcoming and inclusive world for LGBTQIA persons. Pride Month is an opportunity to learn more about LGBTQIA people in history, read literature that features LGBTQIA people, and promote acceptance, inclusion, and understanding among students and staff, regardless of sexual orientation or gender expression. Please join us in celebrating and highlighting our LGBTQIA community throughout the month of June and year-round. Thank you.
Our next special recognition tonight is Department Spotlight, and Superintendent Merlino is going to
Yes,
read that off
I
tonight.
will. And I see our Director of Communications, Gail Spoler, getting ready to come up and kind of, we've spent the last several months identifying and kind of highlighting the work that a lot of our departments have contributed throughout the pandemic and recognizing them. Tonight, we're gonna recognize the communications department for all the work that they've done, even to the point that they've been willing to fall off of trucks at graduation and injure their legs and make it through with crutches. That's how committed
Oh my
this group is.
gosh.
Oh, I'm sorry, Matt. Did I highlight your? That was you, Matt. Wade, come on. And I want to mention that every year, the communications department submits some of their work to the Washington School Public Relations Association. And this year, once again, best in category with a perfect score in the video category, Award of Excellence, Communications PR Marketing Campaign, Award of Excellence, Social Media, Award of Merit on the website, and honorable mention on their finance report. The only honorable mention on the finance report. And also, I will say this year, and one of the other things that's gone on quite a bit has been the collaboration within the county between, I think, all of our school districts as we've tried to kind of react and respond to the COVID, the pandemic. And Gail has worked as part of that group as well. So I'm going to they've done an amazing job this last year helping us communicate with our community. And Gail's got a few things that she'd like to share.
So first of all, I want to introduce that first experience. That's not part of it. But there-
Good morning, Evergreen Public School Switchboard.
But the goal is
we're going to bring everyone together and we're going to talk.
And these are the students that pushed for this conversation on the Senate floor.
Actually, I mean,
I knew if I looked at you.
and actually,
It has actually garnered large viewership. It's given my also the opportunity.
And then, of course, our live sports, concerts, and graduations, as we just know, happened just recently. One of the other pieces, too, that we've been really diligent in portraying is what is going on with the Envision Evergreen bond measure. So we've been out there at groundbreakings, ribbon cuttings, milestones that have happened, just to make sure that our public understands that the bond measure they voted on in 2018, we are not only progressing, but delivering on time and on budget. We also have been emphasizing all of our levy-supported projects and initiatives as well. And some of the other ways that we convey what's going on in the district, of course, the good news. But as you know, from over the last 5 years, we've actually kind of transitioned the good news from a very static paper copy to something that's more interactive and electronic that we can share on social media. However, there still is a time and place for our print materials. And so we do the annual community report and our or Your Evergreen Schools magazine, because that goes to every address within the Evergreen School District boundaries, and not just our parents and families, but for all of the taxpayers. And so we deliver that to the mailboxes twice a year. And here are Svetlana and Rennie, and with us, Rob, do you speak Spanish? German, sorry. Okay. Well, for those of you that don't speak either Spanish or Russian, what that says is if you can read this, thank Rennie or thank Svetlana. And that's been a very important initiative for us, is to make sure that all of our families are getting the information in the way that they can best use it and understand it. And then my favorite, media relations. Some days it's wonderful to get up and open the Columbian and see how well we're portrayed, as well as on many of the TV channels. I think that we have been very welcoming and very accommodating, and that's because I think of the media background that Matt, Craig, and I share, is that we know what they're looking for and we know how to make that and facilitate that for them. And so we have had a number of really positive media stories. And even when the stories may not be as positive, I think that, again, with our background and our relationship with the media, that they are at least willing to listen to the factual information that we're providing them as well. So our family and community communications, we've had a lot of that this year. We send out school letters via school messenger, and I'll have to tell you, as you get ready and you queue up a message that's going out to 60,000 people when you hit send, you do proofread it several times and you have someone else come look over your shoulder as you do that. Also, when we have to make any kind of adjustments for snow days or something like that, between the 4 of us, from the time Mike calls us, we can send out a flash alert, school messenger, social media, and get it up on the website in less than 5 minutes. We're able to get the word out. This year, of course, with COVID, we've really employed all of those communications methods as well. And then, of course, we do have crisis and emergency communications that are sometimes more difficult to deal with, but we try to do that and support the schools in a sensitive manner as well. And then, as I mentioned, we do pride ourselves on showcasing the good work we're doing in the district. And even though the last year has been challenging, we've really been out there scouring and taking advantage of everything that's happening out in the schools to show people that there is a lot of good things going on in the district, and sought out all of those activities. But I will tell you, with a sigh of relief, we are hoping for a more normal return to school this fall, when we can get out there and even do more of what we enjoy doing on a daily basis. So thank you.
You. Mike? You'd like-
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. The next two individuals I'd like to have come up are Shane Gardner and Scott Eppinger. Shane and Scott have led throughout the year all the work around kind of the logistical things related to COVID response. They've had a weekly COVID captain meeting with staff from each of the buildings. Scott's been responsible for kind of working on PPE, procurement, furniture, dealing with the buildings on social distancing, things like this. I know Shane was very integral in creating the system with respect to attestations for parents. I was actually at a physical last week having my blood drawn, when a parent got a call that was drawing blood from my arm about she hadn't made the call for the attestation. I thought that was pretty cool. I told her I didn't think we have to do it next year. She looked at me like, what do you know? You have no idea what you're talking about. So basically, I just wanted to recognize both of you for all the work that you put in, leading the efforts of making sure the buildings were prepared, knew what the guidelines were, knew how to respond to things, and they've really done an amazing job. And I just really wanted to say I appreciate both of you, and give you both an opportunity to share, some of your kind of thoughts on the year from your perspective. Microphone work now?
Test, test, test.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mike and the board. And we call each other our wingmen. So hopefully we can continue that on. You know, I had as a principal in our district here, lots of opportunities to work with Shane, and always appreciated the work that he does. And so that opportunity to get together and do what was really challenging work, and work that we didn't always have the right answers, but we tried to find them and benefit everybody along the way. But we are happy to let this work go away anytime soon. So I do appreciate working with Shane, and all the fun. We did try to keep it fun too, maybe a little corny at times, but fun. And that.
I'd also like to thank all of you and Scott and Jay and Holly. And truthfully, it was like taking a final without preparing for it. Like every day was a new question, and the goalposts were moving, and it was a Herculean effort by so many people here at Evergreen Public Schools. And it was just an honor to work with all those people, and appreciate the opportunity to work with Scott in his new role as the Senior Director Facilities as well. But thank you all for your leadership through it, and I'm so happy we're looking at the rearview mirror of most of the things that we had to put in place. So
thank you, guys. One more real quick, if I could. The last thing I want to, person I want to recognize is Bill Ohman in the back of the room. This is his last board meeting. Yeah, but you can come on up if you like. Sure you can. So Bill accepted a position with the Vancouver School District, and Bill has been here for what, 5-6 years, something like that, and done really an amazing job leading our secondary schools, leading our instructional team, just kind of doing a great job. And so it's a loss for the district that Bill's leaving, but gain for Vancouver, and thankful that he's staying locally. And Bill and I are good friends, and I know that we'll continue to be good friends because our daughters wouldn't allow it any other way. But yeah, Bill, it's sad to see him leave, but I want to make sure everybody had an opportunity to share their thoughts with Bill, and Bill could share any thoughts he had as well. Maybe he didn't plan for it, but there you go, Bill.
Do we turn it on? Great. So thank you, school board, Mike, cabinet. It's been a great 6 years. I'm really going to miss all the principals, being out in the buildings, just supporting them, being in the classrooms with the teachers and students. It's been phenomenal work, and I've really appreciated just Evergreen's focus on having comprehensive high schools and comprehensive middle schools. So no matter where you live in our district, you have access to every program out there. And so that's what really attracted me to the district. And I really appreciated the equity work. Find those gaps and do better with our community. So I'm not going anywhere. My wife, Stacy, in the back of the room, she's a special ed teacher at Legacy High School, and we have Aidan William are at Pioneer, and so not going anywhere. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Bill.
I just kind of wanted to wrap this up with a bow on it. All of these folks that we're recognizing tonight have done amazing things over this last year and a half in particular, all in their areas, seeing us through some of the most trying times that a school district will ever face. And so I just think it's important that we recognize the people that are carrying this heavy weight of constant change, constant new communication, because the old communication isn't there anymore, new things to do with delivering instruction, new everything, constant churning of the situation. And that's not an easy task at all. So I appreciate every single one of you for what you've been able to do over this last big event. Okay, next on our agenda is approval of the board consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Approved. Next, we have the superintendent consent agenda.
I move to approve the superintendent consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, good. Next up, we have an introduction of new administrators. And first up, I'm going to ask Janae to come up and introduce our elementary associates.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. To continue on your theme of new, we have quite a few new administrators this evening. We're going to start with our elementary associates. Mr. Rowe is going to come up and talk about them. And then they also, some of them I believe have family members that they will introduce as well.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's an honor to be here as always. And As has been the theme for a number of years, we in Evergreen continue to be blessed to be able to attract just some outstanding folks from other districts to ours, and we're honored to welcome 3 new folks tonight and also talk about somebody who's basically grown up in our system in Evergreen. And so I will introduce them one at a time and then invite them to come up and say a few words to the board, and also in some cases to introduce their family as well. So let's start with a gentleman whose name is Lester Womack. And so Lester, come on up if you would, up here. Lester comes to us from the David Douglas School District, where, among other things, he has served as an elementary teacher, a student behavior specialist, and an assistant principal. He also, as a matter of fact, did some work in one of those positions with one of our current elementary principals, Becky Chase, when she was over in David Douglas. And we're very honored to have Lester in the district. And for all 4 of these folks, we don't quite yet know what their school assignments will be. We've got a lot going on right now and a lot of great opportunities for folks. And so we still need to finish some of that up. But everybody's been very gracious around that. And we know that we'll have locations soon. So Lester, welcome to the district and congratulations. And
hello, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm really excited. I'm smiling underneath this mask. I can't stop smiling. I brought 2 of my 3 kids. The oldest is with my wife. They're playing volleyball in Florida currently at the regional tournament. So they would have been here. But this is my son, Asher. He's going to be going into 8th grade. And then my daughter, Bryn, and she'll be a 3rd grader next year. But we're very excited to join the Evergreen family. So thank you so much.
Okay, let's see. Next, we'll invite up Camille Empey, who I know folks know. So Camille, come on up. Camille is our very own, and among other things, before being named an associate principal, she served as our dual language education specialist, the role that she's in now, and also was, and I believe, the very first dual language immersion teacher hired. Gail has done amazing work for a number of years in the school district. Very excited to welcome her as an associate.
Thank you. So Camille here, and I was born in Brooklyn, New York, but raised in Puerto Rico. So usually when people invite us over to their homes, we in Puerto Rico, the invitees have to bring bread with butter to eat with the coffee or the hot cocoa. This time I didn't do that, it's COVID. So, but I did bring a couple of azúcar, they're coconut and guava. So please enjoy a little bit of sugar this afternoon. Yeah? Yes. So my husband, come on guys. I have 3 boys, 3 high schoolers. I am bilingual and I'm starting to learn a 3rd language. That is the high school boy language. Hopefully one day I will understand. If you provide classes, lessons for, I'll take. So Dale, my husband, El Guapo. Samuel is my 2nd child and is at Union and he's in 10th grade. And Stephen is my 3rd child. He's also going into 9th grade at Union, and they're both swimmers. My oldest son is working right now at Spaghetti Factory. So go there afterwards and ask him. And he's going to be a junior. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I can't thank you enough. And I'm looking forward to contributing more to our family here in Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so now I'd like to invite up Veronica Marganines. Come on up, Veronica. So, Veronica comes to us from Portland Public there, and she currently serves as the Director of Humanities and ESL, and she's also been, among other things, a dual language teacher and an assistant. So we're very pleased to welcome her to Evergreen, especially with the skill sets that she brings us. Honor, like it is with all of these folks. And so,
and foremost, I just wanted to thank all of you for the opportunity to join family, Evergreen School District family. It's been quite a journey in education, so I can't wait to see what success we can contribute. Tonight, I bring my family. So this is Sophie, is currently finishing up 6th grade at Shahela. A lot of sports and activities, so you'll hear from her for sure in either your art that you display or in many other ways. Proud of you. And then we have my husband, Kerm Nakvi, who, if you ever need some medical advice, he could certainly provide that for you. But anyway, thank you for having me. Gracias por todo. Un orgullo estar aquí.
Welcome.
okay, and finally on the elementary front, we're pleased to welcome Carrie Montgomery, who comes to us from the Lake Oswego School District, where she, again, among other things, has served as a reading specialist and a literacy coach, and also currently as an elementary principal over in Lake Oswego. Carrie, we're thrilled to have you join our team, and thank you so much.
Thank you, the board. I'm excited to be joining Evergreen School District and being a part of your educational journey and the journey of our 25,000 students that we get to serve. I brought with me tonight my 3 sons. I'm going to have to talk to Camille later and see if I can learn that teen language as well, because I also have 3 of us. I have Matthew, who is just recently graduated from Camas High School. My son Jackson, who is a incoming junior at Camas High School. And my oldest, Gwen, who is a junior at WSU. And we are thrilled to be here. So thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you, everybody, and you're welcome to go ahead and go, and we're going to bring in the next wave.
Boy, we got a lot of action tonight
We do.
here.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you for coming. A lot of people, so we were staging them.
Yep. Come on up. Aaron Lusich. Come on down. Aaron Lusich has been our current Senior Director of Teaching and Learning, and she applied for and was hired into the new Executive Director of Teaching and Learning position. Aaron has over 25 years of working in Walla Walla, Kelso, primarily in Evergreen School District. But Erin has been a teacher. She has been a reading specialist, an instructional coach, a trainer of instructional coaches, an associate principal. Back in the old days, a professional development specialist in the district, principal on special assignment, principal, and finally the last 2 years as our Director of Instructional Development and Senior Director of Teaching and Learning. Erin has done an amazing job. She was one of the prime leaders of creating our remote learning platform that we basically overnight made happen, and just always goes full at everything she does. Very lucky to have her in her new position. And Aaron Lusich.
Hi.
Good to see you again. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's a privilege and a humble experience to stand in front of so many wonderful people that I get to serve with every day on behalf of our kids. We're lucky practitioners to have each other in this service, and thank you for inviting me here. And my family says hello. I think you know some of them.
Thanks, Erin.
A lot of hiring. Our next one is our Director of Equity and Inclusion, Jamelia, and Clarissa is going to come up and
All right, so we have been able to accomplish a lot this year as it relates to our equity work, and we know that there is much more to do. And in that vein, I would like to, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Jamila Singleton to help us do that work as our Director of Equity and Inclusion. Jamila comes to us with 20 plus years of professional experience with equity, from her thesis as a undergrad in college on racial inequities to her doctorate dissertation on embedding equitable family collaboration into teacher development. She has been a teacher, a principal, a senior director for teacher preparation for Teach for America, a research associate, a director of curriculum, as well as a consultant for equity and inclusion for various districts and organizations. I personally look forward to working with her as our new Director of Equity and Inclusion, and also looking forward to doing more big things with her support, in addition to the 4 additional staff members that will be onboarding here soon. So without further ado, I'd like to call Jamila up to speak to you herself.
My name's Jamila, and so I'm just gonna, so it's Jamila, so we'll pronounce it as we talk and engage. One thing I just want to say is I'm really grateful for this opportunity. I know organizations across our country are engaging in a racial reckoning, and it's great to see that Evergreen is both investing in the staff, but also is seeking out leaders who have experience doing this work. And so I'm just excited to be here. And I will say, as someone who has a real passion for inclusion and who was brought to education because of my own experiences being a Black girl who was othered in school, I'm just excited to get to work. So ready to roll my sleeves up, literally, and get started with you here in a couple weeks. So nice to meet everyone.
Welcome.
I actually have a question. Could I read your papers?
Hi, so my dissertation is ready, and as soon as it is, I'll send it over to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a variety of other positions, and Julie Tumulty is going to come up and introduce everybody what the position are we'll be assuming in July.
Everyone. It's really exciting again to see all of the new people that we're adding to the building and then also to the district level. And when I look at the 4 people that I'm introducing, 1 at the building level, but 3 at the district, it says a lot about our ability to work with staff and see them in new opportunities and really grow people into new, have new spaces and ways to give back to the district. So first, Charles Anthony. First in line here. So Charles is taking over as the principal of Mountain View High School. I've had the pleasure of working with Charles at Henrietta Lacks High School. He has worked as a dean at Evergreen, a coach at Evergreen, a assistant principal at both Evergreen and Mountain View. And Charles is going to bring to Mountain View just a great inspiration of community and caring about people, and his ability to bring people together, as well as a really strong instructional focus on equity that I think is going to really help the Evergreen community thrive. So I'm really excited to have him as the new principal. Charles?
Well, thank you. It's going to be it's an amazing time, and that I am so appreciative of everyone that's in here. Everyone in this building has been a leader of some sort, and it's been that are leadership focused and have the desire to see what's best for kids. I met with my staff the first day when I was in. Have equity, have full work for our kids. That's the main question of what we're going to do. And they've been so receptive of it. And I told them that one thing that we're going to do at the school is going to be exhausting, it's going to be challenging, but it's going to be phenomenal when we reach our goals. And so I let them know that we're going to poke and prod, we're going to push, we're going to push, and we're going to push, because our kids in the Evergreen are going to start to be exceptional at Mountain View High School. So look forward to that. And I said before, I really appreciate everyone.
Thanks, Charles.
All right, next we have Heather Fowler. So Heather was actually one of the first people I met in Evergreen 12 years ago. I don't know if she remembers that, but walking into my office at Union, I didn't know what was going on. And she walked in and had this big personality, and we've stayed connected through. And so it's really exciting to see her in the senior director of secondary education role. She brings a vast experience in teaching middle school humanities, social studies, U.S. history, high school English. She has been our assessment coordinator, and then recently her great work at Legacy High School. She has had exceptional results at Legacy, really caring about the students and what they need and finding exactly that and then producing the results. And that's what I'm excited for in terms of our secondary education, her helping to lead those results and lead our secondary buildings to excellence. So welcome, Heather.
I didn't know I was going to have to say anything, so I'm not sure what to say. I just really appreciate the opportunity that has been provided to me to serve not only our students and staff, but also to support these amazing secondary principals that we have, like Charles, and I really look forward to helping Charles, support him in that work, and also moving the work of all of our principals forward and really thinking about looking at our data and reducing our disproportionality in all the areas that we've talked about that we know are really important. So I also put lip gloss on, and so it's not sticking to my mouth. So that is something that's important to me and to my heart, and hence my work at Legacy that was so important. And I just am really excited for this job and the hard work and serving with Julie. And I know that the work has been good, and I just really am excited to help move that forward. So I, again, appreciate the opportunity and look forward to all the hard work ahead.
Have anybody with you? Do you have anybody with you today?
Oh, this is my better half with my purse. He looks jaunty with it for sure. He is a first grade teacher in Beaverton, so I drug him all the way through rush hour traffic to be here tonight. So I appreciate that. Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Congratulations, Heather.
All right, next up, Bobby Height. Stay on the side, okay.
I think he's fine back there.
So this year we decided to add a second senior director of elementary education. Working with 22 buildings is a lot. And in order to move the work forward, like we really need to do, we need to have a manageable number. So we put out a search, and Bobby has applied and got the job, obviously. I'm really excited about Bobby. You know, she has led Crestline through a fire. She has led that school community through things that we would never have imagined. I have had the pleasure of every year being on SIP presentations with Bobby, and what I get really excited about her leading principals is every time principals are taking notes about what Bobby has thought or has done and has ideas about. And I look forward to that new energy and vision in our school district. So Bobby, welcome.
Yes, that's my husband Blaze over there. I'm really
excited that he can be here. We left our 2 kids at home, so we're gonna have dinner tonight together. I just want to say how appreciative I am the fact that the district has believed in me as a building principal for over 13 years and has aligned itself with the vision and mission that we set at Crestline around inclusivity and inclusionary practices. And I'm really excited to extend the work beyond just my building and into other schools and working with other principals and colleagues to be their thought partner and think about how we can work together to grow their vision in their buildings and how that aligns with the district. So I'm really excited about the work and the opportunity. So thank you, and I look forward to getting to work. Thank you.
All right, last but not least, we have Matt Hill.
Oh, boy.
So Matt is our current principal at Marion Elementary School, and he is now taking the role of Senior Director of Special Services. Matt comes with a vast background of being a special education teacher, a special ed coordinator, and then a building principal, associate, and principal. His vision for what special services can be in the district and how inclusive practices can work is really exciting, and it's going to be a fun part of the work moving forward and seeing how we can create that together. So I'm excited to work with Matt and have him part of our team. So welcome.
Good evening. So the better half that I have with me, I'll introduce her first because that's really what's important. This is Nicole. She is Maroc. We've been married for almost 22 years, and she gets to tolerate me on a daily basis. So, but anyway, my passion for special ed started when I was really young. My parents were both school teachers, and on the occasional Saturday, pretty much every one of them, I'd go to my mom's first grade classroom, and next door was a special education classroom, and I would play on the therapy trikes up and down the hall and all the other great things that were in that room. So that's where it's kind of started. And I volunteered in that classroom starting at the age of 9. So that's where, my passion for special ed started and continued into my schooling and then here in Evergreen. So across the district, I've worked at a number of schools as a special ed teacher and regular ed teacher. And then recently as principal of Marion, very excited to see them off today. It was a great last day of school, especially with the new building ready for them and all the endeavors that they're going to face there. One of the things I'm really excited to work on this next year is looking at neighborhood schools and having students who live in a community actually join that school's community instead of moving around the district for program-based instruction. That's one thing that we've been working on this year at Marion, and we'll be implementing that. Look forward to taking that work across the district. So, thanks.
Congratulations.
That's all we have. Thank you.
That's it. Thanks, Janae.
Awesome people, all of them. I'm excited about that. Next up, we have our superintendent report.
Yes, got a few things I want to discuss. First off, we all had the opportunity over the last week to participate in 7 graduations. The significance of that for 2021 being that they were in person. We were fortunate to make it through 6 of those relatively dry. And I know you're all going to talk about your own experiences with it. It was great to see the kids be able to cross the stage this year and get back to that tradition that we had to set aside in 2020 because of the pandemic. But I'll let you all share your own thoughts on that. I wanted to talk real quickly about the mode of instruction for next year. We this year started the year remote instruction. We got to hybrid ultimately and completed the year in hybrid. And kind of throughout the year, there was this question of what does 21-22 look like? Is there going to be the continued option for remote? Is it all in person? And, you know, our interests as a district, we know that there were a lot of students that were successful in a remote environment this year. We know that there's a lot of students that would like to come back full time. We announced well over a month ago that we were coming back 5 days a week in the fall. So I hope everyone is fully aware of that. But we were kind of waiting for what guidance we were going to receive from OSPI on the remote option, the 2.0 option for us, because you do have alternative learning, which we've always had, but that is a different look than what the remote 2.0 looked like. So ultimately, OSPI in late May released their guidance. They put it out like on the 21st, but then I don't know that it was really released broadly until the 28th of May. And so one of the concerns that we had was just the lateness of when we ultimately received that information. How do you take that and then turn that into a program that's going to meet the interests of our community at the same time, making sure that we could staff that program as well. So ultimately, when we did receive that on the 28th, there are 3 options going forward. The preferred and recommended method from OSPI is actually, it's a requirement that we provide full-time in-person to our students. Again, we've already put that in place. Optional were the ALE and continuous learning options for us. The difference between the continuous learning option for us and the significance is you receive basic ed funding as opposed to funding at the ALE level. The ALE level is a little bit of a reduced amount. The continuous learning is the same amount that we receive for all of the in-person. When we ultimately received the rules, the rules provided to us indicate that you have to have 70% of your time in synchronous learning, as opposed to the language this year, which kind of gave you the ability to run a hybrid program. You had by the end of the year, there was a minimum number of hours that you had to have that were in person. The 70% was a challenge for us to try to create. First of all, the lateness of knowing that it was going to be 70%, exactly what the rules were around 70%, but kind of the definition was if you have kids in person or if they have a schedule that provides direct instruction to the individual, the student, for 70% of the time, and then allowing also for all of the access to the programs that you typically have at a school. So when you consider what we've done this year, in our elementary schools, we would not hit that 70% threshold. They've been remote for a period of basically the Wednesday remote takes you down to 80% right off the bat, and then the kids weren't online all throughout the day in elementary. So it would have definitely required a change to what we were providing in terms of offering in elementary school. And in secondary, when we ultimately went to the remote option, I think we would have it would be easier to come close to maintaining the hours because we did have simultaneous instruction. So kids either were in class or they were attending remotely at the same time. The issue that we have at secondary is that was something that teachers volunteered to do, to have kids in class at the same time having kids zooming in remotely. So you either would have had to create a new system that we'd have had to identify teachers who wanted to teach remotely and then create a new delivery of instruction to them where 70% of their time was either on site or remote, but live instruction as opposed to asynchronous. Or we would have had to go through another process where we identified staff that were willing to do a synchronous. And we knew by the end of the year that the teachers that we have doing that, who had volunteered, there were a lot of barriers that they endured throughout the second semester, whether they were technological issues, there just were a lot of barriers. And so as we looked at the lateness of where we were, and then we also kind of started reaching out to the rest of the districts in the county, what are the rest of the districts doing? There aren't any districts in Clark County offering anything other than the ALE option. So we made the decision for this fall to only provide ALE and then work. So ALE through Legacy or Home Choice. Those are the two options that we had previously. At the same time, kind of trying to work with Legacy and work with Home Choice to maybe expand what their program is to make it look more like, because through ALE, you could expand your time, you could expand the program and continue to be funded at the ALE level. So the issues we had were just honestly the lateness. We were aware that there would be an opportunity for us next year. We just weren't sure what the rules were going to be. And then knowing what we know with respect to the experience we had this year to create another program, certainly at the end of 15 months of what we've gone through. And then also gearing up for summer school, which we are now starting here, I guess, next week. It was just kind of an overwhelming task to occur. We did reach out to our community, though, I think last week with the community survey, just to get a sense of what options, what other things might that our parents be interested in. I think we've received something like 6,100 responses so far to that survey. Of the 6,100, I think it's 98%-ish who are, they've just said we want to come back in person. And there are a number of people that you did have the option to respond to what are your specific thoughts. We had a number of individuals kind of respond that they want their kids in person, but they're not interested in the masking. We had people that were interested in having kids in person, but are waiting to see if there's any kind of vaccination requirements around coming back, that they're not interested in being forced to be vaccinated. And then you had some give that they would attend Legacy or they would attend Home Choice as an option. There are a number of different other individual responses. People say, I'm going to go to Evergreen High School. I graduated already. So there were a number of things. Now, the issues around vaccinations and the issue around masking, which we see throughout the kind of the region, vaccinations, there's not a requirement for vaccinations, and that this school board would not be in a position to make that a requirement. That's something that comes from the state or the local Department of Health. So we often have emails and calls questioning, why does the school board require this, or why is the school board imposing this on? It's not the school board, it's the Department of Health, the state of Washington. Same thing with the masking. The masking requirements are directed to us as a school board. And we're expecting on our superintendent calls with Dr. Melnick, the expectation is at the end of the month, there's going to be some updated guidance from the CDC with respect to schools. So we're waiting to see what that looks like. The frustrations, I think, that the community feels, I think that the district feels a lot of those frustrations as well. I think the school board feels some of those frustrations. I know that last month we understood that being vaccinated would allow us to not have masks. And then the next day, we learned that if you work for a school district or you serve in an official capacity, you're required to wear a mask, even if you're vaccinated. But if you attend the meeting and you're vaccinated, that's not a requirement. So I just use that, and I see one mask coming off if he chooses to. And the other reason I mention that is just to kind of illustrate, this isn't a board call. This is a state directive, and it sometimes doesn't make sense. It like for me personally, I know that there's vaccinated people that are required to wear masks because they work in the school district. But if you're not, you can come to a meeting. If you're not an employee, you can come and not wear a mask. So we're hoping very deeply that there's more consistency. I think the state of Washington is close to achieving a 70% vaccination in the state. I know at the end of the month, the governor has talked about the mask requirements going away, but they have not addressed whether that will, they've not said it will apply to schools. So we're waiting to see what the guidance is from the CDC. So I do think, though, with time, which we have time now, we absolutely have the ability to try to create a system for either at some point in the year next year or even for the 22-23 year. The fact that OSPI has put out guidance on what remote learning, continuous learning 2.0 might look like, now we do know what the conditions are. We can get through summer school. We can open the school year, and guaranteed we'll be dealing with some things still when we come back in the fall. But there isn't any reason we can't work to try to create a continuous learning 2.0 program that does meet, I think, some of the needs and some of the interests that our parents have. And I think we have more time now to get maybe more deeply in depth. I got an email from a student that talked about frustration about not having, ALE at Legacy doesn't allow them the ability to have AP classes the way that they were able to take AP classes remotely. So we do have the ability to create something, and we have more time to create something on that. So I don't think we're resistant. I know we're not resistant due to I think our biggest issue was just the lateness to try to create, and not knowing what the rules were made things very problematic at the time of year where folks have been through a lot already. And really, we're not even taking a break, because we're going to start with summer school first session in June. We'll have the second session in August, and then we'll be right back again in the fall. So I wanted to kind of give some background as to how we came to the decision, or what our thoughts were coming to that decision. And then the last thing I would just add, Matt made reference to it today, and today was the last in-person day of school. Tomorrow's the last day of school. It has been quite a year. It has been quite a 15 months for our families, for our students, for our staff. And I really hope deeply that kids participate in the summer school program if they've signed up and they have a good experience with that. But I really hope everybody gets an opportunity to just kind of get away for a little while, because it's been rough for everybody. And we all need a little bit of a break before we come back and get at it again. So, thanks.
Questions?
Wait for the beep. Thank you for explaining that. Appreciate. I think it just kind of calms the worries that I had about losing services for students who turned out to be thriving in a model we'd never tried before. And I think even with the, so I'm just kind of reflecting this back to you, is that you're talking about a staff full of people who brought everything they had to this, and it's just a lot of work, right? It's not that simple. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of care. And I appreciate you expressing that and helping me to understand what went into the decisions. And certainly that guidance did come too late to really act on it, didn't it?
And May 28th, year beyond. I mean, we were having to give teachers assignments, I think June 1st by contract. So, I mean, there's all kinds of issues that come into that, and it was extremely late. Yes.
And I could save the rest for board comments, because it's good to be able to speak well with people and glad to hear about all the thoughts that went into it. So, thank you.
I have a question about so when you mentioned, like, if they went to Legacy to do the remote learning, but then didn't have an opportunity to do like AP classes, because in my mind I think about, and what did you say? Like, I thought in the email, was it like, how many students are going to plan on attending in person?
It was of the 6,100 roughly, I think it was about 6,000.
Like, so it was most
98.5%, 98+%.
Because then I always think about the challenges if you have students, and I don't know how hard that is to incorporate the AP at at Legacy or the online, but I just think about, like, if you have a handful of students that want to take AP, and then you've got to find that extra instructor that's AP certified too, and then it really just depending on too what AP class they want to take, because there's dozens of them out there, so. But then just also thinking about, you know, we know that some of our students enjoyed the remote learning, and that, I don't think that necessarily means it has to stop all the way for, even if you're attending in person, that you might be able to do some of that. You know, it depends on how creative our instructors are and just what we do moving forward.
Our instructors are very creative. They've had to be. The innovation that had to go into this. That's not going to go. All the learning that we all did for coping with all of this is not going to go away, right?
No, I think we do have the opportunity to be creative because they've set a whole new set of rules that talks about 70%, and it can be it in the future. It very well can be kids attending class on site and then teachers assigning things remotely. So we do. It creates a whole nother opportunity, which I'm sure we will take advantage of to try to provide more opportunities for kids. It just, it was late. It was hard to react to it.
And I think it's worth saying back to you as well that WASDA and other advocates at the state level have been advocating daily for coherency about the pandemic mitigation rules like the masks and the distancing. Now that we have vaccinated people who could gather. When I asked the question, it's like, when are they going to give us something that actually makes sense? As you say, they said they're asking every day.
Yeah.
And they're talking every day about bringing that to a better place. And yeah, we are at their mercy. It's just the reality of it, right?
Frustrating. That's for
yes,
sure.
that's the word I was looking for.
That's a good word.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Next up, we have our Director of Communications, Gail Spoler, up to give us some good news. We could use good news.
Okay, here we go. So the good news, of course, is that we had 7 wonderful graduations. So we went ahead and used a photo from Troy Wayron, who's our digital arts teacher out at Heritage. He took some lovely photos. And so we just kind of put that at the top just because it was a great way to start the good news. So an ongoing project that just phase 1 has started at Sunset Elementary. They are doing an ongoing mural that every 5th grade class will contribute to from this point forward. This first 5th grade class decided to celebrate equity and inclusion through music. So they painted a mural under a Young Artist Grant outside the music room. And that is their contribution, and they're leading off the murals that will then pop up around Sunset. Pioneer Elementary, it has usually had a cultural fair every year, and so they again wanted to keep that tradition going. So they celebrated their cultures virtually, and they allowed the families to experience different crafts, food, customs from 12 different countries. And so families volunteered to host that and then have the other families participate. So we have had a few field trips return this spring. Columbia Valley had raised salmon through their salmon in the classroom. And so they were so excited to go out to Salmon Creek and release the fingerlings into the stream. So you can see them there. Sifton 3rd graders combined science with growing, and they received a donation of seeds through Burgerville. And so you can see that they have all started their gardens that are continuing at home. Take a look at this little guy. This is Aidan Dolan. He's a 5th grader at Harmony.
He was recently honored. He saved the life of a 5-year-old who was caught in a riptide at Long Beach, Washington. Doing this by myself and reading, sorry, I'm whipping by things here. Union's Jasmine Wu was recently named a college-sponsored National Merit Scholar, and she will take that scholarship to the University of Southern California. So if you haven't had a chance to watch this story, please do so. It is about 6 Square. Now, most of us played 4 Square. Apparently 6 Square is now the next wave, and there was only one 6 Square court, I guess is what they're called, at York Elementary. And so the York Elementary 5th graders got together, put together a PowerPoint presentation and presented it to their principal, Don Harris, about why they needed an additional 6 Square court. She was persuaded to put a work order in with facilities, and the students actually helped participate drawing the new 6 Square court. So way to be activists. The district art show went on again this year in a virtual setting. There were 4 superintendent awards given, and then a number of other student created artwork displayed too. So please take a look at that presentation. And then Hearthwood Elementary and a Chartwell's employee, Janine Latanovich, was recognized as a lunchroom hero by Food Management Magazine for her support of families during the pandemic. She's really taken a keen interest in making sure that students and families receive food when they needed it, not just from our free meal program, but with other additional meal supplements. And then, of course, Mike already talked about how we had, once again, won a number of awards in the Washington School Public Relations Association. So again, so proud of the staff. And we really do enjoy what we are doing, and we do it not because we want to win awards, but it's always nice to be recognized by our peers as well. So that's your good news. Oh, back.
Okay, next up, we have our budget update.
Yeah.
No?
And it just be quick. We've completed the school year. As I've kind of talked throughout the year, there were a number of impacts on the year, but the federal ESSER funds will help balance us out and help us as we work towards next year. So this year we'll likely be roughly break even for 2020, 21. 21, 22, we're working on the budget right now. We drove back. I think it was Friday night, and I don't know if you all noticed, but there was one body in an office with a light on, still working at 9:30 or 9:45 or whatever time that was. That was Cindy Madsen in the classified personnel department working on the budget still. So there's been a significant amount of work undertaken. We talked about the HR department at last month's meeting. It doesn't stop. You got contracts, hiring, budget. It's significantly impactful, and we're continuing to work on that. Jennifer Jacobson works really closely with Cindy, and what I didn't talk to Lori about it yet, but we got to reach out with the 5 of you all to set up our meetings for, I think, the first week of August, if people are around. I don't know if you're going to be around or not. So it'll probably be like the 4th and 5th and 6th, somewhere in that range, but we'll do it before the meeting on the 10th and have the ability to have conversations. Myself and Jennifer will do that. And so we're just plugging away at the budget, trying to get it ready for next year, and kind of wrapping up this year. Everybody's tired.
Yeah.
Everybody's tired. All I've got to share.
Next up, we have citizen comments. This is a time where citizens who wish to speak to the board can directly address the board regarding anything that's not legal or personnel in nature or currently on the agenda. have anyone? Okay. Okay, now we have board comments. Have anyone? There's some.
Well, as you all know, we had 7 graduations. And for the rest of you guys, I think one of the first things that the board told me, even during my interview before they appointed me to the board, I asked what their favorite part about being on the board was, and they all unanimously said graduations. And this is my second time getting to go to graduations in person, and I really feel like I know a little bit more why it's everyone's favorite part of being on the board. It is just such an amazing event to be at someone's culmination of all their hard work, and to see so many people so happy all in one place is just, it's like going to Disneyland. It's kind of magical. Like, everyone's happy and everyone's polite and everyone's just all excited to celebrate each other and themselves. And it's just such a great display of, what we're all about being on this board and what we care most about, which is helping kids succeed. And so watching them kind of at the start of their, adult lives and getting to go through that ceremony, it really is just very touching and totally magical. So I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed getting to spend time with you guys as well. That's all that board related that I did in the last week.
I know I always say that I love the first day of school to see those new fresh kindergartners coming in, and they're so excited, but they're also scared. And it's the same kind of in a way with the seniors that are graduating. They're all excited, but there's also, some of them are kind of scared. And it's just neat to see those bookends and know that they're all going to, we want to see all of them be successful, like you said, and do well in school and feel good about their experience while they're here, and then leave our system being prepared for what is next. So it's after as many years as I've been on the board, I'm still not tired of graduations. I love them. And they did such a good job this year. I mean, bless their hearts, our Mountain View Union with the torrential downpour, but they had those umbrellas, and you know what? They did great. They were troopers through the whole thing. Yeah, it was fun to see them out there. Go ahead, Rob.
I missed several of them, and I can't really say that I'm sorry, since I was at a college graduation for one of my own kids, and it's the happiest I've seen her in a long time to be done with the university education too. So yeah, I think it's worth mentioning because we did see a student fall at the beginning of the union graduation, and it turns out I have a family connection through one of the other seniors who knew that first one at least was a pratfall. It was a boy. So he was okay.
One that went down the stairs?
The one that went down the stairs on our left. That was a prank.
prank. That was loud.
Got good and wet too.
We got good and wet. But that's the news I have about that. Someone took me aside and said, you know what? Yeah. Because we get that every year too, is the exuberance and the excitement of those seniors and their families. I've seen a lot of stuff over the years come across the stage. People doing cartwheels and backflips and striking poses. And it was just fun to be with them and celebrate with them. That's the other thing we did was I had so I'm looking at the calendar, make sure I got this right. the advocacy work from WASDA does go on. And our conference is going to be in person this fall. That's worth mentioning. I also had an interview with the Education Northwest folks about the strategic plan. They have some really incisive, good questions and seemed grateful for the answers that I was giving them. And I don't know if they've talked to the others. Yeah. And so it's good to see that work going on. And yeah, this is the end of a very difficult year for me, for everybody. And as I've watched everyone do their work over the course of the year and worry and triangulate with the guidelines that change every single week somewhere, that just sent ripples through our entire system every single time it happened. Folks might not be feeling like what they brought to the table was good enough, but that's the thing that I want to say about the year is that it's the hardest it's ever been. It's going to get better. The Department of Health has this graph for natural disasters and other emergencies, and we were right at the bottom in May of the sort of attitudes and social the fighting that goes back and forth that we've seen in the public over this or that issue, and then people begin to recover. And this is the month where that graph lined up with the beginning to recover. All the work that was done is sufficient. It was the work of consummate professionals who brought their best selves to the jobs that they had, and I thank all of them for that. And I hope it's easier next year. I really do. I'd rather not have to go through another one of these anytime soon. Thank you. Thank you for this.
Once
good
every
work.
100 years, we'll be
Yeah,
fine.
I hope so. I hope
agree with that.
so. I look forward to a rest and then good work in the next year. Thanks again.
Yes, now that I know that that was a prank, because I spent the next hour at graduation watching every single graduate's shoes, worrying about them walking down the stairs.
Stairs did too.
And
So-
telling everybody to be careful stepping
Yes,
down the
yes.
wet stairs.
I was so concerned because he did fall very hard, but I'm glad that he's fine because I did worry a little bit about that. And I'm so glad that Rachel loves graduations just as much as the rest of us, because I'll tell you, over the years, it doesn't get old. And, you know, I don't think people truly understand our love of graduations, because, you know, most people are like, oh, yeah, I go to graduation. I'm like, oh, I love graduations. And they're like, what? Like, it's like not a thing that people like to attend over and over and over again. But there's just something, like you said, it's magical. And I'm so glad we get to experience every year with our community and just sending off those kids and hoping that they just keep, you know, stay in our community and do great things. And I also wanted just to take a second to exciting stuff. We have a lot of new people joining the team next year, and just wanted to thank everybody for their efforts over the past year. You know, I think everybody's expressed how hard it's been, but you know, really just heroic effort all the way across the board. And I'm just so glad that everybody's on Team Evergreen and that we're going to continue to do the work together to support our kids. So thank you.
Yes, so a couple things that I'd like to just give a quick report back on. As most of you know that are here, we received back our WASA report from our management review that we embarked on. And I want to say I just was really proud of our participation and how open people were in their comments. You know, we've been through a hard year. We've had some serious burnout of people, and the leadership of our district and our team, because we see us all as a team together in this. It's not just the board and then staff. We're part of a bigger working group, and to have some feedback to help us in moving forward in developing the best team that we possibly can. I just appreciated everybody's contribution. Mike, I really appreciate your openness in this and jumping right away onto some of their recommendations that I think are going to get us where we want to go. And that's important. It takes a lot of courage for a superintendent to lay it out there, and you really did. And I appreciate that. So I don't want to get into it anymore, but I just wanted to thank everybody for what they've done. And then I want to just kind of fill in the rest of the board. Jenny and I will be meeting with Lori tomorrow to go over kind of our protocols now that we're kind of out of, hopefully, the tornado. We really want to get back onto our governance protocols and talk about, we've all said we want to streamline things a little bit because they were a little burdensome before, but we don't want to give away the intention. We've got policies that we want to flesh out and bring that equity lens, plus add our equity policy and get that completed. And then we'll also be putting together, or at least getting our calendar back in a cohesive format so that we can start planning our, our student voice program, our other stakeholder type conversations that we might, that we want to have as we're going down the path. So we just want to kind of get it all organized so that then when we all meet at the next, or at our board retreat, we can all start pushing that work forward and get back on track to, now that we'll be meeting in person and we aren't just dealing in reactionary mode, but we can be much more intentional about where we're going. So anyway, that's all I wanted to bring up. Okay, future agenda items. Have anything we want to add at this point tonight, or do we want to wait until Rod? Hear that sound?
I should, after the June legislative committee meeting, the WASDA legislative committee meeting, have 3 or 4 position proposals for the annual General Assembly that I think it would be a good idea if Evergreen signed on to as supporters for. In particular, I want to show Mike that it has to do with the ability of local school districts to report the costs of bill proposals on the same time frame as the legislature wants it, so that when we see these things and go, oh no, unfunded mandates, we're able to say, no, this is the cost. And that's still a work in progress, but that would be a good thing to lead off on. And then some ideas about student safety. Once the committee has had their pass at it, I want to bring it to us for sponsoring support.
Okay.
With respect to the equity policy, I know that you'd asked me to consider where that body of work would fit into our existing policy structure, or whether there were changes. And that's still in my mind. I think I'll have something ready by the second meeting in July.
Okay, great.
There you go. And then we can kind of workshop that and then get a wider discussion during the retreat. I know
and how
what's
we
scheduled
bring
for
the
the
community
retreat.
on board and all of that. There's a lot surrounding that we want to make sure we don't miss opportunities to.
Yeah.
Good.
That's
Thank
what I
you.
know.
Great.
Just
Thanks,
a
Rob.
reminder that I'm going to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Just 2 quick things. We had the student rep discussion. I don't know if that was 2 or 3 meetings ago now.
Do what
The
discussion?
student reps.
Oh, yeah.
And so I did, are we gonna have a follow-up
Yes,
discussion?
we are. In fact, Jenny's been working on getting some input from the committee, the ad hoc committee. And so they've all been busy, like several of them with graduation and all of that, but they're all on board to help us. So she's working on that and moving that forward. And that'll be something that we will talk about at the retreat. and get that thing going.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? So we are going to go into recess where we will sign documents, and then we will, do we not? Oh, and then we will go into a board workshop where we'll talk about EPS facility rentals, always an exciting topic. Teaching and learning equity update, a legislative update. Then after that, we will go into an executive session regarding the performance of a public employee. And that should be about 45 minutes. So I appreciate all of you being here tonight, and we will go into recess. Thank you.
Entertainment here, but
Scott, can I say something real quick before you
Sure.
start? Sorry about that. Scott, we've been talking about the rental fees now that we've got the turf fields. And so Scott is going to do a little presentation and have a conversation, kind of some of the background that goes into the recommendation and what we're thinking about with respect to that. So thanks, Scott. Sorry about that.
Thank you for the opportunity to have this on in the workshop. Rachel mentioned earlier about just how much she enjoyed the graduation, and sounds like each of you obviously feel the same way. And as you know, coming from the building, one of my favorite things, not having participated in the graduation, is the community events that we would have at Fircrest as an example. And so just those opportunities to bring our community together, spend time together, celebrate together, really is very enjoyable. And I know that's one of the things this last year that has been difficult, is not being able to have our community in, whether it's into our buildings or utilizing our fields. It's been hard on everybody. It's nice, we had the graduation to kind of bring that together and have that feeling again. So I don't kind of learning how everything works in terms of board meetings and workshop. So I don't know if people have had a chance to look at the presentation yet, but really the objectives for meeting were to talk about opportunities for community use and fundraising, share some information with you in regards to life cycle around replacement cost and maintenance of our synthetic turf, and really to review the building rental rate fee structure. So as you very well know, we have some beautiful facilities, and as we look at building rentals and really kind of look at how we maybe fine tune some of our processes, we look at how can we utilize our facilities to for the benefit of our students, our staff, and our community. And so in the presentation there, we embedded the drivers that Sue and our facilities team, and probably many of you, looked at when we were designing the beautiful buildings and fields and things like that that we now see. Along with that is just how do we ensure safety, liability protocols for the benefit of students, staff, community, and our district, and that's around the safety and security. And then just how do we maintain what we've been able to create here, and fiscal responsibility, the sustainability as we move forward. I'm sure that you've all have the policies memorized, and maybe even have a tattoo to refer to, but added this in just to as a reminder of some of the policies that we do have around the use of facilities and fundraising and things like that. with the new turf fields, we wanted to, when we think about, how do we maintain the fields? What are the costs associated? How do we plan to replace those in the future? I wanted to share some costs with you in terms of the turf that was replaced at Evergreen High School, and then the different costs related to the different types of fields there. So you may or may not have known that the life cycle is 10 years for our turf fields. And so based on looking at that cost, our recommendation is budgeting $200,000 per year per high school for turf replacement in 10 years. One of the things that we're have been investigating, looking at is just, what is the differences in maintenance between grass and turf? And so we've been fortunate enough to have some money to buy some equipment to groom the turf, maintain it. We're hoping that we didn't aerate the turf too badly for graduation. Sounds like maybe some high heels might have a lot of high heels. So hopefully hopefully we didn't damage the field. But the one thing we wanted to just share is that we are looking at just standard operating procedure to maintain those fields and keep them at their best. We are analyzing, what are the cost differences going to be between the traditional mowing grass and the maintaining of synthetic turf. So did link in there a standard operating procedure that we are fine tuning. And then also just wanted to give you an idea of in the turf field use, what that would look like as we move forward. Kale's been very helpful, of course, of putting that together just to show the potential volume of usage. Okay, my apologies on that. So some of the guiding questions that we wanted to talk about as we move forward and think about rental rates is we haven't changed the rates in 10 years. So the question around, do they need to be adjusted? And then trying to figure out what would be appropriate rental rates for the turf fields. So if you could open the link. Chris Pugsley is in our building rentals department, and she is doing a nice job of collaborating with other districts around us. And a lot of them in the same boat, of course, with trying to figure out appropriate rates and also looking at some of them already have turf, but looking at turf rates too. So again, if you could open the Clark County field comparison we've done with the other districts, we are the lowest in terms of fees for facilities, stadium, the grass fields, which moving forward would just be at the middle school. And then even our personnel fees, which is around things like.
Is it possible to email that document? Okay, because it's hard for me to follow along without seeing what you're referring to.
Okay.
And I really want to keep up.
and let me know when you have it open. I'll start it then.
You're on the rental, which one of those? The rental rate and fee schedule?
If you go to the Clark County field facility rate comparison,
Got it. You okay, Julie?
can you bring it up on the screen here?
I got it.
And start them.
Are we speaking to this spreadsheet?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
just go with the
So-
screen.
As I was saying, so Chris Pugsley's working with other districts. Her Java likes to figure out pricing. And so we haven't raised prices for over 10 years now. So in the assessment of where prices are at, we have basically 4 different areas that we are the lowest in. We're mid-range with auditorium fees, but facilities, stadium, field fees related to the grass fields. We still obviously have to figure out the pricing for the turf. Low in those areas, as well as personnel. Personnel is things like the stadium manager, the auditorium tech manager. So we're lower in those areas, and so that's one of the questions is whether we want to move forward in looking at adjusting those. The other thing with the turf, we looked at, again, looking at what other districts are doing. At districts of our same size in the state. Looking more so around our area here, Battleground is one of the higher ones there. So we were looking at fees of $45 for the group 2 per hour per field and $65 per hour per field. That would be pretty much similar to what Luke Jensen Sports Park is in our area.
Scroll down to the turf field.
Yeah, because I've asked for access to it also. Got it. Thank you.
Battleground's quite a bit higher. Or that, and that's what we're proposing to that range.
I think they have at Prairie and Battleground both. And really all we're trying to do is set what we think the rate. Right, right. Yeah, it looks like they charge more.
That's their hourly rate.
Correct. I just think we have so many more fields now. So it's kind of establishing what that rate is. Well, they're currently paying whatever they're paying for our stadium rate right now. If we do that. And it also depends on if it's through the correct, right. Or right, or if it's for private. It was through Evergreen High School. And that was, I'm sure it was the Evergreen Band Boosters that ran that. And it could be a fundraiser for the school. But if a for-profit came in, that's then they would pay the full freight. But that I don't think usually happens. Are we making a recommendation?
Yeah, 45 for group 2 and 65 for group 3.
And group 3 is private or commercial or profit, and group 2 is nonprofit, educational, special interest, recreational groups. And that aligns us pretty similarly with Vancouver and not Battleground, but Luke Jensen, I think, too. Is that accurate?
That is, yep.
That's right.
Sponsor group.
Well,
the number is all.
This is more related to the schools and the new fields that we have. So you wouldn't have one of those, but you might have a baseball or softball tournament at a school, which very likely would be run as some sort of a fundraiser, which would mean it wouldn't necessarily be governed by this. This is really more if you've got a local team that wants to rent the field, what are they going to have to pay to do that? And how does it compare to another place?
That's why.
What's that?
Like one of the lacrosse teams, the high school lacrosse teams.
Could be a club it could be a club soccer team. It could be a club baseball team.
Baseball, summer programs.
Softball,
Sure.
right.
Or Little League.
If they chose to, usually the leagues have their own fields, but they could, if they chose to.
A lot of practice fields.
Well, especially with opening the baseball field.
Well, no,
Right.
Little League really has turf fields, and so the weather here, the opportunity to play and have turf fields means that your event's gonna go on no matter what.
Right.
And so it's worth it to have that fee. And I think it's a great opportunity. We've been time really being able to showcase, our facilities.
Yeah.
And our schools and bring people to the community. And for businesses and everything.
Yeah.
Bring people from all over the state to play and participate in some of these activities.
Oh, I agree.
But I guess my question was, why do we want to have the recommendation be as low as Luke Jensen, or we just want to, or is that enough to cover our cost?
So to me, I mean, so typically school districts, in my belief, I mean, we would, if we can, we would want to set aside money that we'd have money to replace it. But typically it would be a maintenance, a capital levy that you might have that would replace these in the future. Sometimes districts will run a bond and then we'll replace all of these things. So it's really more, in my mind, we're trying to encourage community use. So you don't want the fee to be so high that you're discouraging anyone from ever using it. So it's kind of, I think it really is, these other districts have set these rates at, or Vancouver has, or Battleground has. You can set a rate so high no one will ever use it, but I don't really feel like that's the intention here. I think the intention is really to let the community get on our field. So we want to set a rate that's a reasonable rate. And I think the rates that Scott and Sue and others who talked about it are looking at are pretty reasonable from the perspective of them being similar to what other districts in the area are using.
Is the document, the rental rate and fee schedule document, the proposal, or is it the current set of rates?
Right, yeah.
Okay. It's nice to have identical quality facilities at each of the schools too. I think that'll help.
All the way, I mean, for
45 for group 2, so nothing for group 1, 42 or 45 per hour per field for group 2, and 65 per hour per field for group 3.
$45 and $65, I think.
45 to 65 is most similar to what Jansen says. So we're kind of, the proposal kind of splitting things down the middle then. So it doesn't cover all of the operational costs of maintaining the field, but it incentivizes community use through lower price, which balances the two priorities that we have here. Are we considering any other changes to
I
the
think-
other facility use?
I think we will, but I think we can't start charging if, and we have the policy to be able to add that, but I thought it'd be a good idea for you to be aware of what we were doing before we just did something with respect to this. So it's kind of a conversation I think that there is, and I think Scott and Sue kind of alluded to the fact that the rates haven't changed for 10 years in some of these other areas or longer. And so some of them probably are out of step a little bit with what other districts in the area are doing. But right now we're just kind of talking about the field turf because I think there are folks that will be on them this summer. If we go ahead and I mean, as long as you all seem to be okay with it, then we'll just move that forward then.
Seems okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
The city noise ordinances would come into play, wouldn't it?
Ashton, can I take myself off of life support here?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We got him. Thank you, guys. Okay, next up, we have teaching and learning equity update. Is that you, Julie, or Marissa? Julie, we had parents who were, concerned that they'd have to wear masks. Did we have parents that are concerned that we're not going to have masks and they're want masks? I know it's interesting. Yeah.
It's how do you make a decision when an equal number of people on either side and nobody in the middle is the real demographic? There is, I'm sure you're aware, is a perception of ALE offerings as less desirable, kind of like good schools, bad schools kind of thing. Is there anything we could be doing to, especially given Heather's work at Legacy, turning that into a jewel of an alternative school? Is there anything we can do to, you think, to reduce the concerns about that and flexibility and so forth? It's possible there, and the opportunities that are possible only there. Right.
Just to, and I know you're going to talk about the timing because obviously things can change considerably once we hit June 30th. But they could change again over the summer, depending on June 30th. But I think that one of the biggest concerns we heard from parents was that they just heard things like, a couple of days before they were supposed to report in person or, whatever the case may be. So I think it's just really important that we get that messaging out, like as soon as we can, and then, and maybe even put in there could be updates to it based on new information. But I'm really hoping that June 30th, we really get some new guidelines and guidance that maybe changes some of the things that we're
I think it's reasonable to expect we'll get 2 or 3 more changes before we come back in September.
I So I think with also in consideration of the, the AP remote options, I know that there are students within our general population too that are looking for opportunities, makeup things, or I just remember having breakfast with the board before the pandemic and students were saying that they're still missing, a foreign credit language or, credit or foreign language credit or other things like that. And they just don't have the time to fit it into their schedule because they've got all of these other things going on. So that would be also something that we, just to offer up to other students within also if it can be done that way. I went through night school to make up some credits, so I have no shame. And that was nice that there was those opportunities for us to be able to go and do that. So. Yeah. Right. Well, and yeah, and sometimes it's not even recovery. It's just that they haven't had the chance to fit it in their schedules and they need to get it done. And I mean, that's colleges have been doing. Innovative and starting to kind of offer some of these things to our students that faster. I don't
They've
know.
also opened, the fact that they've opened it up to 70%, it could be any time too.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you could take the evening, you could do stuff online evening. If we get the
Exactly.
staff to do it.
Twilight school.
Correct.
There are
No kidding.
even our parents that have student or, you know, kids or that have to help their families or things like that too, just opening. I know if you ask my freshman, well, he's no, ask him, he'd love to just stay home and do school online. And I'm like, no. And to be able to do some of it,
Yep.
you know, kind of have that mixture. It's, and not, and you know, a lot of what we do already have is just recovery. And sometimes this, it's not recovery the student needs. So I don't know that they would qualify to be able to even get into. Yeah. Right.
I finished my degree online while serving the port. You know, that was just 4 years ago for me, and got a really good picture of pluses and minuses of doing learning that way, especially with an institution that didn't really have a big investment in fostering an online learning thing. So some of my questions come from that, the negatives and positives of that experience, but just also noticing that a lot of the kids whose parents say they're thriving in remote learning, they happen to be neurodivergent, slightly autistic, or you know, ADHD, really high anxieties that just make it so that when they get to school they can't even, or they act out. And we know to expect both extremes. The Department of Health is talking about more outsized behavior and more withdrawal than ever before because of the effects of the last year. Online learning could be a boon for both of those groups without needing, as I'm thinking, the discipline process or the expulsions or suspensions that turned to in the past. That's what's on my mind. Is how to serve those kids a little better. But it all really depends on the timing and the contracts and the whether or not we've all had enough sleep. And appreciate the focus that you've given to this. I'm really, really thankful for that. Yeah.
That's it. Okay, and then do we have any legislative updates?
We were supposed to have our first in-person meeting with the transportation kind of work on that levy or on that bill this Friday, but Sean, who we're working with, had a personal family thing, so we'll schedule that. But he's got all the information from SPI, so we start to work on the simulations, and we'll have more information to update on that soon. Carissa, did you have anything you wanted to share tonight? Okay.
Hey, I had a question for Clarissa. The folks that were getting the 4, is it 4? Where are they going to be? Where are they going to be at? Because I know they're going to be in schools. I mean, working in schools, but where will their like homes, their home be? Okay, so.
And how are they deployed to the schools?
Because that's one of the questions that kind of came up, was concerned that there'll be so many people here at district office. And I assured this person that no, they're going to be out in schools. And they said, well, as long as they're in schools, it won't bother me. But if they're just going to be at district office, you know, and I said, no, their job is to be in schools, supporting schools.
Not the same as the person.
Yeah.
Especially when you're working in equity. No.
Yeah.
Hopefully not, but that was the cool.
But we didn't meet the 4. Yeah. Hey, that's great. Okay, I think that's it, everybody. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And we will take a short recess, and then we will go into an executive session regarding the performance of an employee. Thank you.